Most small business owners don't fail because of a lack of passion. They fail because they're running blind. I'm Mark Andersen, and I help small business owners make data driven decisions using the information from their accounting records. My mission is simple. I want to make a dent in the small business failure rate by teaching you how to use your finances to make better decisions. Welcome to Business on the Run. Welcome, everybody, to Business on the Run with Mark Andersen. I'm super excited to have you guys listening or watching, depending on what platform you're watching or listening from. Today, I have Brant Mills with Execution Strategies. I had it right in my head, but for some reason, and Pearland Stories, the official DBA. So, Brant, tell me a little bit about the origin story. A little bit of your professional background and how you came to be the owner of Content Execution Strategies.
Sure. So I started out in the local news. I spent 20 years serving nonprofits, mostly faith-based nonprofits, and I worked my way up in communications across the spectrum. I've done everything from content strategy to managing websites to video production to audio to podcasts, and worked my way up into crisis and PR. And after a long time of doing that, I decided to step away and try to do my own thing. So I started Content Execution Strategies about a year ago. I've served a couple of clients well, did some rebranding projects, done some higher level strategy work. And then in my downtimes, I decided to try to do kind of a local side project. I called it Pearland Stories. I just wanted to tell stories of some local business owners that I knew. And I was going to chamber events and connecting to people. And I just decided to, we can tell some things that are going on in the local community. And it actually took off bigger than my main thing, or what I intended to be my main thing, and got a lot of attention around some election coverage. And then the algorithm started favoring my content. I started to tell more stories of local business owners, and I'm still doing that.
Nice. Very nice. And you also participated in some of our local elections here recently, didn't you?
I helped share some of the information about it. So I covered.
You became the beat reporter for the election.
A bit. So I met Quentin Wilson on the campaign trail. I've seen Mayor Cole around quite a lot. And I started to see information about some of these other candidates. I was frustrated that I couldn't find information about anybody. So I started to write local profiles that went beyond their marketing stuff. So what that really looked like was highlighting some of their background that people might not know about. And I just did it from a general open perspective, not pushing anybody over anybody else, just sharing information. And that kind of took off a little bit. And then I did some writing about the propositions, because you get one line on the ballot, nobody knows what it means. It's hard to find information. So I did the research. I wrote up an overview about what it means if you vote yes, what it means if you vote no, and that really took off. But then when Mayor Wills on election day, the numbers came out. So Tony Carbone posted that they were really close in the election, and so when I looked at the numbers, they were 10 votes apart after early voting. So right after the polls closed, I posted how close it was, and that took off. And then I hit refresh on the Brazoria County site over and over and over, watched every file update. As soon as they posted, he won by about 1,500 votes. And I posted that, and that went viral. So then I went over to KMP and I interviewed him real quick. I'd met him a couple of times. He knew who I was. I just asked him, what's your response to this like? Like, what's it feel like now that it looks like you've won, and what's next? And I posted that about midnight. By noon the next day, I'd had, it just went crazy. So over the last month, I had 170,000 views, mostly on that post and a couple of others. And then 60,000 interactions, so either likes or shares.
And these posts are on Facebook, right?
That's on Facebook only.
Yeah.
I also posted to the website. There's been some more increased website traffic, but the stories that I posted over the last 6 weeks after that happened, my content's been favored. The local business stories that I've been posting have gotten 6,000, 8,000, 16,000 views on one of the latest ones. People are seeing it. People are responding. and more people are noticing what Pearland Stories is doing. And the reason I'm doing more of the long form narrative stuff is what I found for my own SEO. It helps to have these external signals, but AI search needs a long form content to answer questions. So when people are asking questions about local businesses, when people are asking questions about local candidates, if there's long form narrative content that Google can find, that Perplexity, that Claude, that ChatGPT can find, it serves that content and it finds that content and it's able to do more with it. But nobody's writing long form stuff anymore. So it's giving me a little bit of an advantage right now because I actually have long form details that can answer those questions.
Okay. Interesting. That's very interesting. I guess the one thing that I think is a little tragic in in today's society is that the voter turnout was just really low, right? And that's unfortunate. Now, I wish people took their civic duty a little bit more seriously. It seems like the only elections that anybody ever comes out for anymore is every 4 years for the president, or even to a lesser extent they come out for the midterm elections too. But when it comes to like the more local ones, it's like it's almost like nobody cares, and that's just a tragedy. I just was wondering what your thoughts were on.
Well, sure, but so they say all politics are local, and if you really think about it, all of these higher level politicians, the folks that get there, came out of some lower level office. So really, if you're voting in local elections, you're making decisions for the future. It might be 10, 15, 20 years off, but you're putting people in place to have the experiences to lead and to manage. So by getting to know people locally, by supporting local campaigns and helping out wherever your perspective is, you're able to influence things later on because you're supporting people right now who are going to be leaders in the future.
Sure. I totally agree. Totally agree. So let's pivot just a little bit because I want to learn a little bit more and not so much me, but yes, me, but learn a little bit about your opinions and thoughts on just social media and all of that. What are like the top 3 tips that you would give a small business owner that's really trying to come out of the gate, so to speak, with their content and their message, their marketing message? What are the top 3 things?
Well, I'd actually answer a little bit differently because one, Facebook and TikTok and Instagram have all gotten away from what I would consider standard communications practice. So, the way organizations can own their own content, can send things back to themselves, everything is biased now toward keeping everything on the platform. So being successful in social media doesn't necessarily mean that's going to get you sales. And being like, your reach is going to grow if you're spending more and more money on the platforms now. So where they started years and years ago, I've done this since the beginning. It was a great platform for organizations to show up, for businesses to show up and put your own page up and to sell, to share your information. And you still have to be there. But it's harder and harder to be successful in that space because there's a lot more noise. There's a lot more playing with the algorithm and whether or not it favors your content. And so there's so many things with it. So first, I would say there are things you can do to be successful in that space. So having the right formats, using more photos and more video over just text content. It seems to be devaluing AI generated images. So if you're using those AI, they look really nice and they work great in terms of communicating your message, but fewer people are going to see it because the algorithm's like pushing that down. I guess people aren't interacting with it as much as they'd like. So you have to take that in consideration. I wouldn't say don't do it. If that's the best way to communicate things, continue doing that, but understand that you're going to have to do other things as well. I'm more and more favoring owning your own space. So if you have a website that's working well for you, SEO is a consideration, but also have your content there. Make sure that you have a funnel or something to drive people back to make those sales decisions, but understand that you can't really put a link in a post and expect it to go as far as it used to. Now you'll notice that people are putting those links down in the comments, because if you put links in the post, it's not going to go as far. That's why they're doing that. And then find a way to build your email list find a way to do an email newsletter on your contacts, because if you get deplatformed, if you get locked out of your account, which I've heard some social media managers who manage campaigns for multiple clients, they just randomly lost access.
I know somebody right here in Pearland that happened to. So,
100%.
yeah.
So that's one channel. Don't spend all of your time and effort in social media. Yes, you have to be there. Figure out how to develop your own channels and your own media, manage your website well, manage your email campaigns well, and make sure you own access to your clients. Because if you lose them, that could be devastating for
Your prospective clients. Yeah. So, all right, cool. All right. So let's see. You and I have we didn't know this originally, but when I came to your ribbon cutting, we have a mutual, well, it's more of an acquaintance to me, but a little more special to you. Sure. Tell us about that relationship.
Amy Hume, my mother-in-law, is a wonderful person. Yeah. Lives 2 blocks away. Grandkids go over and see her about every 2 weeks or so. They'll spend time over. My son's 15. He likes to go over and help grandma out. So he'll take some time and go spend time with her. We'll have dinners regularly. She's retired now, so she's not doing what you knew her as. So you guys work together in financial services for one of the larger firms.
Yeah. I mean, UHY was the biggest middle market accounting firm, public accounting firm in Houston at the time. And we were in different departments, but our paths crossed on a relatively frequent basis. So we knew of each other. I think we worked a few projects together, but it was like easily 10 plus years. I kept looking over at Amy going, I know her. I can't remember how I know her, but I know her. And then finally she approached me after kind of the ceremony and everything and reintroduced herself to me. And we chatted and that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of what brought the two of us together too, was kind of that commonality. So she's a sweetheart. And yeah, so it was really great to catch up with her and certainly foster the friendship that has evolved between the two of us. So anyway.
No, I was happy to meet you. I've seen you show up in a lot of places, and I've seen some of your content and stuff. So I enjoy what you're doing.
I appreciate that. So you had something, this is a re-recording of our previous, and we had some technical difficulties, right? And you were actually happy that you got the opportunity to come back because you had some news that you wanted to share that you didn't actually have at your disposal last time we got together.
Moving forward with Pearland Stories, we're seeing some success now in reach. And so I've been showing up in local community spaces, and I've been connecting with other business owners around different things. So we recently launched Pearland Stories story sponsors. And so now we're finding ways to actively promote local businesses. So this isn't some passive ad that's just sitting on a website, or it's not Google ads that you have to play with the algorithm, or Facebook ads that you have to play with the algorithm. So you can actively sponsor and be listed as a sponsor of Pearland Stories on our website, on our social posts, active posts every week. And it gives you the opportunity to access the local community through our channel directly. So I'm looking at different ways to make that benefit locally and kind of bypass some of the stuff that you can't really control. So hopefully that will do really well.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And going beyond that, I'm still doing the strategy work. I'm working as a brand manager for a local leader, and I'm still taking clients for strategy work for helping leaders to enhance their capacity. So one of the bigger things I do with my LLC, Content Execution Strategies, that's meant to reach out and connect with local leaders who are, they're managing an organization. They're focused on board leadership. They're focused on managing what the communications look like for their company, for their organization, for those pieces, but they don't have time to do thought leadership for themselves. One of the things I've done throughout my career is to develop video scripts, to develop keynote speeches, to put together graphics packages for that, to help them really do the personal branding around who they are as a leader, and to share messaging and whatever the focus is for them to be the expert in their field, which they already are, but to help share that out to other people across the space horizontally. So most of them are focused on doing the things within their organization, within their space, but I can help them with personal branding and to build out that messaging and manage their platforms that they don't have time to do. So really it's focused on giving capacity to leaders and helping them to enhance how they show up and to do that really well.
Okay. Okay. So tell me a little about what your ideal client looks like.
Sure. So maybe Janine is a CEO or some other executive leadership, and she's coming in to manage the board and dealing with staffing and dealing with internal politics and dealing with what the messaging looks like, overseeing the staff for the organization and making sure that the communications are right for their clients or for their donors or in that space. And I can come in and I can evaluate and analyze that as well and make sure it's consistent, make sure that it's targeting who they want, and make sure that their campaigns are really in line with each other and sharing what they want. But beyond that, if they need some additional messaging around board leadership, around making sure that their strategies aligned across that space, but then sharing what that looks like externally, not just to their donors and clients, but across that space to other organizations, to where they do external keynote speeches, to where they share what's going on within their organization across the space where other organizations are looking at them at a higher level, so that they can cement their value as a leader across the space holistically, not just in that one organization, but across that whole area. And that's something that a lot of people don't really consider because they're focused on that one space and they don't have time to go beyond that. But where they're looking outside for those external signals and where they truly want to be a leader across the entire nonprofit space or the entire category of wherever their leadership is, to enhance that and make sure that looks good on LinkedIn, make sure that looks good on their personal website, to make sure their personal social channels are doing what they really need to do to not only share what's going on in that one space, but across the entire industry they're serving.
So said another way, just to make sure I understand what you're saying, said another way, you're sort of helping these executives become the expert in their industries in a way. Is that safe to say? Okay, cool. That's really interesting. So tell me a little bit about some of the biggest challenges with your experience as being a small business owner. What are some of your biggest challenges that you've overcome?
I'm still trying things out. So there's so many things changing in the market constantly. So social's changing, SEO's changing, all the traditional marketing channels are basically random. So there are a lot of experts that try to sell their services and try to tell people they know exactly how to do that. They can get you to rank in Google or blah, 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 blah. And none of that's true anymore. And people are still trying to sell that as a way that they have a solution to a problem that everybody has. And because it changes every week or every month, nobody really has the answer. Unless you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, you're not able to really deal with that outside of the random algorithms, right? Because there are strategies that can help with that, but nobody can promise you that you're going to get certain specific results because nobody has control over that except for Google and Facebook and some of the others. Yeah, there are definitely things you can do to enhance it. There are definitely things you can do to be better. And I've fixed my SEO and I've fixed something. So if you search for me on Google, if you search for me on different ChatGPT, AI platforms, if you search for me on different AI platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, I show up on all of them now. Most of that came from external signals. I was showing up at 1 Million Cups. I was showing up at chamber events. I started to do the thing with Pearland stories, and everything that I posted that showed what I was doing helped, and showing up and being promoted by these third parties helped because I'm listed on the chamber site and because 1 Million Cups posted videos about me, and then because I posted my own videos. The biggest piece of that I saw an immediate effect from were Google business search. So if you fix your Google business profile, that helps a lot. The other one is when you post a YouTube video, if you put the transcript into the description, so it knows what you're talking about, then you add your name, you add your business name, and you add your topic, and then any keywords at the top of that, Google sees that immediately because Google owns YouTube. Those videos started to show up immediately in the search within the next day.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
On the transcript, you said you put in the transcript in the description?
At least the first part of it that'll fit. You can get a couple thousand words, I think. So the main pieces, and so if there's any key talking points that are throughout, maybe some headings, I'll edit it down. But primarily the first part of the transcript, and then the main points that you're talking about, and maybe some, a couple of sentences about each.
Okay. So let me ask a question, and this is a little bit more of a detailed question in YouTube, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but what is the better route to take? Is it best to let YouTube do the transcripts within YouTube, or would you be better off doing it like in CapCut or some other video editing software, and then you just upload it with the transcripts already there?
So I haven't tested different ways of doing it. I use Premiere. I pull the transcript from Premiere, so it's verbatim. It does get the names wrong sometimes, and it will get a few things. So you'll have to go through and edit. But I take the verbatim transcript from where I initially recorded it, and I just pull that over and make it to be what I need it to be.
Okay, cool. That's interesting.
And that's actually been helpful for me writing articles as well. So I've been writing for 20 years. I'm a very good writer. And I'm generally humble about it, but I'm a good writer. And so what I've done to use AI is I'll pull the transcript from an audio recording. I'll record my interviews, pull the transcript, pull that as verbatim text, and I'll drop that into ChatGPT. I'll drop that into Perplexity. And I'll ask it to give me an article, but I'm not going to post the article that it gives me, right? People don't trust AI. People don't like AI for whatever reason. Some people are using it. I use it as a tool to give me structure, right? So I can sit down and spend 3 hours writing a really good article, or I can pull the framework of an article from AI and see what it says, and I'll pull insights from that. So I'm still going to do my own writing, but I'll start with something that gives me direction, that pulls some insights that I might have missed, and will give me some of the best quotes that came from that interview. And it saves me time, and I think ultimately it yields a better result, but I'm still the writer. I'm still the editor. And that's been helpful in the same sense of figuring out what that content should look like and helping me to make decisions that are editorial in nature, but giving me a better direction to go sometimes. The bigger piece around AI, I would say a lot of people are hesitant to jump into it. They hear a lot of negative things about it. I think regardless of whether you choose to use it, even if you hate it, learn to use it, learn it.
What's a tool?
So Perplexity is my favorite right now. It's had some issues lately. I think everybody's moving to Claude for different reasons. ChatGPT still works really well, mostly for like image generation and that kind of thing. I think you have more flexibility with it. But the first trick is to train it to sound like you, and don't use the out-of-the-box random stuff. Dump 15, 20 articles that you've actually written into it and tell it to analyze it. Then tell it to write like you. It comes a whole lot closer. You're still going to have issues. You're still going to have to tell it to not do certain things, but it'll get closer to sounding like you. So that's the first trick. Secondly, learn it. Even if you don't want to use it, you don't intend to use it, in the next few years, you're going to have to at least understand it and know what you're getting into. Don't listen to other people's opinions. Jump into it and form your own. More and more jobs are going to require you to understand it and at least have some experience with it. Don't limit yourself. Don't listen to other people. Just jump in and try it, figure it out, find a way to make it work for you. And just so that you can speak intelligently about it from your own personal experience, even if that's going to be even more negative and you're going to still talk down about it. But try to understand it and learn it so that you know firsthand.
Very cool. So I know you're a great writer. Let's reverse the question a little bit about writing, or let's talk about reading. Are there any books that you are really kind of into as far as helping you grow and develop in your business acumen?
So since grad school, the only things that I really dig into when I do have the capacity to read, I focus on fiction. I like high fantasy. I'm a big fan of Tolkien, even beyond the Lord of the Rings books. He has several different books that are there, and my kids are bringing me things now, so they're reading things that I've never heard of. So there's a couple of things that they're reading, and so I'll read some of the things that they've read just so that we can talk about the same kind of thing. But when I read, I read for fun. I used to read a book a week before grad school. After that, I didn't read for a while because it was so dense, so much reading and so much involved. So now when I get a chance to sit down and read, I read for fun, and I usually read fiction.
Okay, interesting. Then, what resources are you using to, I guess, develop your business acumen? Sure.
So I've gone to coaching sessions with William Gray Jr. He has a group that meets on Fridays locally, and
The Go-Getter Group. Goal-Getter Group. Excuse me.
yes. So he's collected a great group of people, and I haven't been recently, but I went there for several months, and it's a really good resource to connect with other business owners. Kristen Pomeroy's got a group going that she pulls together different people in kind of a business coaching climate, but it's more of a support each other climate. So people will come together and talk to each other, and really when you walk into those spaces, you're talking to business owners who have more experience. You're talking to people who've already addressed the problems you're having. You're talking to people who are going through the same struggles you're having. Really good conversations happen. Knowing who to go to and knowing who to have those conversations with, to me, saves time. And yes, I can do my own research. Yes, I can go look up and see what other people are doing. There's plenty of information out there, probably too much information. You don't really know who to trust, right? Unless you know them personally. Knowing who's already been through it and being able to call them and just say, I have this problem, and being able to talk through it and figure out what that looks like, I think is far more valuable than spending time trying to go find some self-help guru or to find some information online that might or might not work. I think it's more efficient that way.
I recently went to an event that the person that was speaking had a two-step filter to determine whether or not they wanted to, I guess, have somebody mentor them, right? And it was really very, very simple. The first question basically, and I may be misquoting this a little bit, but in the essence of this is accurate, okay? The first question is basically, was this person willing to mentor me, right? Question number one. The second one, which is really an even more important qualifier, is this person making more money than I am? And I thought that was a fascinating way to find somebody to help you get to the next level of your business, right? What a great filter.
I spent the majority of my career not networking. I didn't value it, not networking. So I was in the faith-based space. I probably know 2,000 pastors, right? If I needed spiritual help or if I needed guidance or something, I know exactly who to go to for that kind of stuff. But they're busy people. They're professionals. They're connected to other spaces. And I just spent most of my career trying to figure stuff out on my own. I was kind of in a different lane anyway in communications and going through that, learning through those things and just trying to lead and understand all of that on my own. When I left that role, so there were two things. I got connected with some communications groups toward the end of that part of my career. And that really showed me the benefit to getting to know people and connecting in that way rather than just trying to go it alone and figure it all out. When I left, I got connected. So I started to show up to chamber events. I started to show up. I joined Rotary, and I've connected to other leaders across that space. Going to Pearland Innovation Hub things. They offer so many events that are a resource to business leaders. And then 1 Million Cups is the same kind of thing. You get a chance to talk about what you're doing and what you're going through and share your experiences, but you also get connected with so many other people and hear their perspective and hear what they're going through and hear what they're doing. So that networking piece, that piece that I just kind of ignored, has been incredibly valuable. But also, I found community. I wasn't connected. I didn't know my neighbors. Now I found friends.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what that really looked like. I grew up in a small town. I missed that sense of community. I missed that connection with people. And I just figured that that's what society looked like now, right? Everybody commutes. Nobody really talks to each other. You don't really know your neighbors that well. Coming from people just showing up on Saturday to hang out, or, people had barbecues together or whatever. You don't really see that happening now. But if you show up and you're intentional about trying to find a way to connect with other people who are doing the same kind of stuff, I really found a space where it feels like home now. I have friends. I have people that I can call, and ask advice to. And it's a completely different world. The Pearland business community are really invested in helping each other out and showing.
Agreed.
They show up for each other. They're there. And it's the same people across a lot of these spaces. But it's a really amazing environment. They're giving, they're caring, and it's not what I expected at all. And I'm really happy that
Cool. So what are some of your favorite events to go to around town? Are you going to the farmers market and doing some of those events, or just chamber? What are the events that you're going to?
Well, I recently found the farmers market, and I just did a write up on that, so you can go find out that and learn more about Julie's story. But that's a community in and of itself. So the people that go to the farmers market know and connect and help each other. There was a recent the Yellow Apron Bakery launched, and now they're sharing products from all the friends that they met at the farmers market. So you can go there outside of that and find more of their stuff like any time of the week. But beyond that, the Innovation Hub is a great space. They host a ton of different events. I like to go to 1 Million Cups when I have time to, because you get to see people and meet people. But they also host other things. So I went to a marketing session yesterday that talked about, identifying your ideal client and some of the channels and things around that. So there's just so many things going on. And ultimately, most of it's connected to the chamber, and most of it's funded by the EDC, the Economic Development Corporation. So they're all independent groups, but they're all connected and planning things together. And then there are other things going on at the chamber where they host different types of committees and things, and those I found valuable as well.
Which is some of the ones that you've participated with on the committee side?
Yes.
Which ones?
So I've recently started showing up at the Government Relations Committee, and that's kind of a group that is made up of, there are a handful of national reps, there are state reps, there are local community reps connected to local government organizations, and basically the folks who are making most of the decisions across the region. It's interesting because you can hear different perspectives, and you can hear what our state senator, our national senators are working on directly from their campaign leaders. Sometimes they'll show up, but they tend to send their own reps to just talk through what kind of legislation they're working on. To folks from the county are talking about what's going on in the county. And kind of what they're working on, and then local leaders show up and they're talking about what's going on at the city level. So you kind of know from a news gathering perspective for Pearland Stories, that's beneficial because I'm able to know what's coming so that I can kind of plan my research around what to talk about once that's released. And that's been really helpful.
Okay. Is it I guess what's the scope of some of these conversations? And I'm not asking for specifics on these, but is it generally centered around small business, or is it a little bit more global, like talking about the expansion going down 518 and stuff like that?
Sure. So I've only been to a few meetings so far, and I'm still kind of feeling out what that looks like. But they're targeted on what their priorities are. So they're helping to communicate what's going on in their world and what's moving forward in their office right now. So some of those are more like bigger picture things. Like the HUD came in and talked about some of the programs, identifying some different priorities and some things this last week. And then they talk about some, there might be some health concerns at the county level that they've noticed, or there might be, so it's more big picture, but there are definitely things that intersect with what's going on with the business. But they also put together a committee that manages the Pearland's like day in Austin. So they'll go for like 2 or 3 days in Austin, and they kind of manage that and some things around that. And then there are some other things that they do that I'm not fully aware of yet.
Okay, cool. So where do you want your business to be, say, in 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. That's hard for me to see. So the last year I've been kind of figuring things out. I've spent my time, and I've tried a few things, and some of them didn't land. Some have been more successful than others. It's hard to say at this point. I'm enjoying writing. I'm enjoying telling local stories. I'm enjoying showing up and getting connected. And I'm enjoying being able to do some of the higher level strategy work. So I've gotten my brand sorted out, and I know exactly what they're doing and what they're intended to do. I figured out who my audiences are. I just want to connect with people and grow. And frankly, I just want to help local businesses as much as I can. Now that I've connected into that community and I've seen some of the challenges, seen where I can plug in and help, I just want to be a resource.
You're a man of faith. So tell me a little bit about how your faith shapes you as a business owner.
I think faith is central to everything we do. If you've been a Christian for most of your life, the way I have, that philosophy is kind of core part of your personality. You can't really separate that. You can't really pull that out. So I've been, in my career, I've served churches and ministries for the last 20 years. I've seen every possible aspect of what that looks like. And my own faith journey was, really kind of a study in what that looks like. I grew up in one denomination. In college, I went through and I took time to spend time with folks from probably like 7 or 8 different spaces, even outside the Christian faith, just to understand who they were, what they believed, and to connect with people. And what I found is there's more commonality across denominations, across faith perspectives than there are differences, right? So we all kind of want the same things. We might see different ways of getting there. We might have different beliefs and views on what's appropriate in different contexts. But when you kind of boil everything down, I'm a follower of Jesus. I apply my faith to pretty much everything throughout my life, just because that's how I show up and who I am. It's a part of me. It's not something that I'm intentional about. It's just who I am, right? And I think there's different ways of looking at that and approaching it, but faith in business is just another element of being ethical and just following what you're supposed to do throughout your normal practices in life.
Yeah, I've always believed that you can't. There's always overlap, no matter what part of your life, whether it's faith, whether it is health, whether it is your relationship with your spouse, whatever the case may be. There's always going to be overlap, right? For example, if you've got problems with your marriage, you're probably going to have some struggles professionally because it's going to be impacting your mindset, right? So that's kind of the way that I view it is you need to have all of those things. Same thing with health, right? I mean, if you're having health problems, that can bleed into, your business or whatever other part of your life, it's going to have an impact. There's always overlap. So these people that think that it's cool to compartmentalize things, it just doesn't work. It all bleeds in, whether it's faith, or some other area of your life. So anyway, Nick, how far along are we? What's that word for? We're for it. Okay. So let's start to wind things down a little bit. So Brant, why don't you tell me if there is somebody out there that is watching or listening to the show, how can they reach you to be a resource to help them with their social media and marketing and all that?
Sure. So I have 3 spaces. So if you want to see what I've done, go to brantmills.com. It has like an overview of like all the things I've kind of done throughout my career across music and podcasting and writing. And you can kind of see a sample of who I am. Search for me. Like I said, just search for Brant Mills, Brant. Search for Brant Mills. in any space, and I'll show up and you'll learn more about me as a communications leader. And then if you go to contentexecution.com, or if you go to pearlandstories.com, you'll see really kind of what I'm working on and how I can help you.
Cool. So you've bought all those domains, and that's really awesome.
I've had them for years, and they talk to each other, and that also helps with the SEO. Because I have my personal space, I have my business space, and then the other is kind of a community news space. So they're really they have completely different foci, but they work together to promote different things.
All right. Very cool. Well, Brant, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. You can catch Business on the Run on YouTube, Amazon, Apple, as well as Spotify. Thanks again for watching the show, and we will see you in the next episode.